Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel on this glorious Sunday morning. I'm getting ready to watch some football a little bit later. I'm sure a bunch of you guys are, and I'm sure a bunch of you don't even care about football, which is all totally fine and cool too. Here on the John Campea Show, what we like to do every single day is talk about all the great things going on with the stuff that we love the most. Movies, some television stuff. Sometimes we sprinkle in some other things in there as well. Now, here's how today's show is going to go. I got an item from the world of movie news I want to discuss. Then I'm going to go over and take your questions. Now, how do you get a question or topic into me on the John Campea Show? It's simple, but it's been updated, so pay attention to this. You simply email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. And this is also very important, guys. Put the word topic in the subject line of your email. Put the word topic in the subject line of your email. If you don't put that word topic in the subject line, I'm not going to see your email. Now, for Star Wars Talk Tuesdays, if you have a specific Star Wars question you want on Star Wars Talk Tuesday, it's basically the same. You email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com, but instead of putting topic in the subject line, you put SWTT, that's Star Wars Talk Tuesdays. Put SWTT in the subject line, and that's how that email will get to me. So I'm going to get to a bunch of the questions that you guys have sent in to me. And then near the end of the show, I'm going to save a few minutes and take some live Twitter questions from you guys who are watching me live. How do you get a live Twitter question on if you're watching live right now? You simply tweet to me at John Campea. So you just start your tweet with at John Campea, then write out your tweet, send it on in, and maybe you'll see it pop up here near the end of the show. All right, guys. So first of all, special hello to all you guys in the chat board. Isaac Davis, Andrew Garfield, Go Patriots, that's right. Prince JP, Rickolas, Sleazy Mike, Charles Easter, Finn, Alien Morales. Hello to all you guys and the hundreds of others of you guys who are in there right now. With everything else out of the way, let's get started on the main topic of the day. Official word has dropped on the runtime of Star Wars The Last Jedi. And it is officially the longest Star Wars movie of all time. It's clocking in at just a hair over 2.5 hours. Now, by a lot of big mega blockbuster standards, 2.5 hours doesn't sound like it's a really huge amount of time. I mean, it's not completely uncommon to get movies that are 2.5 hours long. And it's kind of weird to think that with Star Wars being as, impossibly popular as it is, and we've had like 8 films, that you would have thought that, hey, at least one of those films would have had to have been over 2.5 hours by now. But no, this is by far the longest. It's a full 8 minutes longer than the second longest Star Wars film we've ever had. And this one's clocking in at 2.5 hours. So now, let the wild and baseless fan speculation begin. What is it about The Last Jedi that required it to be 2.5 hours long? What is it about this movie that made the head honchos over at Lucasfilm and Disney feel like, yes, this movie, we can take the reins off a bit and you can go a little bit longer, try to get a little bit more of that goodness in there, go for it. Clearly, there's some important things in here. And clearly, there was probably a little bit of scrambling with the passing of Carrie Fisher. So it's going to be really interesting to see what goes on with this. But, one of the other things that I think is relevant to bring up in this discussion of the runtime is the fact that, of course, Star Wars The Last Jedi is totally wrapped. It's in the can. It's now just sitting on a shelf, waiting for its release date to come along. And this was the first of the new, all the new Star Wars movies that has really gone off without a hitch. I mean, everything has gone completely according to plan. There were no bumps. There were no last minute, emergencies going on. Everything went smooth. Everybody is raving about the job that director Rian Johnson has done. And so we're all stoked, and it comes in a bit longer. They didn't feel the need to shave anything out that wasn't quite working. So, to me, runtime is just runtime. You've heard me talk about that. A 3-hour movie is not better than an 1.5-hour movie. A runtime should match whatever the movie requires. And, we may watch Star Wars The Last Jedi and think, you know what? This was great, but if you shaved about 15 minutes off, it might have been even better, that sort of thing. But they kind of feel 2.5 hours is the proper runtime. So let me ask you guys in the chat, are you excited about the 2.5-hour runtime? I got to admit, I'm geeking out about it because when I'm sitting down and enjoying a Star Wars movie, or any movie for that matter, if I'm loving it and it's got the right pace and the right tempo, it can just keep going on and on as far as I'm concerned. If a movie goes too long, it loses that pace and tempo. But if that movie's got the pace and tempo and I'm loving everything I'm seeing on screen, then I just want it to keep going. So I don't know. Are you guys, let me know, ask you guys in the live chat. Are you guys excited about this news? Are you completely indifferent to the news, saying, well, we'll have to wait and see the movie to know if this is a good or a bad thing? Or are you one of those people that think, I like my movies a little bit on the shorter end. I like them closer to 2 hours, between, 1 hour and 45 minutes and 2 hours is your good window. Let me know what you guys think. Jump into the live chat there. Or if you're not watching live, jump into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, let's move on now with the first question today that you guys have emailed into me. And that first question today comes to us from Demarcole, who writes, there are 2 things in film I refuse to watch: gratuitous rape scenes, such as I Spit on Your Grave, and degrading racism, 12 Years a Slave. Should I force myself to watch this subject matter? Is there subject matter that upsets you enough that you refuse to watch it? Well, thanks a lot for the question. And you know what? It's a great topic. It's a great topic about what should we make ourselves watch. Now, before I get on to the part where you're asking about should you force yourself to watch it, let me address something here. I, like anybody else, when I'm watching movies like Schindler's List or 12 Years a Slave or I Spit on Your Grave or other films like that have some really disturbing subject matter. And it's funny because we can watch, an alien invasion movie where aliens are slaughtering millions of people and we'll just sit there with our popcorn going, woo, But I think the reason we can do that, but then watching one person be violated, whether it's a thing of racism or whether it's a thing of sexual assault or whatever it is, makes us feel uncomfortable. I mean, it's weird when you think about it. We can sit there and watch the slaughter of millions and go, woo, but watching one person suffer can be very difficult for us. I think it's because, when we're sitting in that movie theater and we're watching the aliens, destroy New York City and millions of people die like that, it's so far removed from our reality that we can just enjoy it as popcorn fare. However, when we're watching something, especially things that really happen in life, whether it's a movie like 12 Years a Slave, and realizing this isn't made up. Like, this crap happened every day. It brings it home, at least for me, I can only speak for myself. It brings it home to a level like, oh my God, we suck. Like, the human race, we are awful. We are terrible. And it's uncomfortable to watch that. A scene like I Spit on Your Grave, totally uncomfortable to watch. Because you realize this crap that's going on screen happens in our world every day. And oh my God, we suck. Like, we are awful people. I mean, that's kind of the thing so it brings it home. Whereas we have that sci-fi or fantasy adventure separation in our mind between like watching alien invasions destroying millions of lives versus one person having their life destroyed. And that makes it very weird. Now, I understand why filmmakers do that, because like if you're watching I Spit on Your Grave, right? If the director wants you as an audience member to, on a visceral level, want her to get righteous vengeance. I love that phrase, righteous vengeance. If the director wants you to feel on a visceral level that girl, and you have a burning desire in us as an audience to see that girl get righteous vengeance, then part of that is exposing us as an audience to the horror she faced. In some directors' minds, we won't adequately be able to feel her rage and her anger and her pain and have us cheering for her to chop that fool's head off unless the director also allows us as an audience to be exposed to the horror that she faced. I get that. The same thing, you look at something like 12 Years a Slave. Like, the directors want us to understand and feel and be able to associate, even if it's just on an audience level, with the plight that the hero is going through. And I understand that. I get it. As a matter of fact, there was a movie once called The Lovely Bones, directed by Peter Jackson. You remember that one? I think Mark Wahlberg was in it. Anyway, one of my actual criticisms of the film was that and it's not really criticism, and it feels very weird to say this. It feels very weird to say this. But after the little girl gets murdered, there was something emotionally detached from me, from the film, because, you know, we never see the girl experience any kind of horror. I mean, and what kind of human being wants to see a little girl experience horror? I understand that, but remember, I'm talking from an artistic point of view here for a second, okay? Because, you know, the little girl just kind of disappears into the room with the guy, and then we never see what happens. We know what happens to her, but we never see what happens to her. There was a part of emotional investment in the rest of the story that on an emotional level, it just didn't bring me along. And maybe had I seen a little bit of the horror that the little girl had to go through, maybe then I would have hated Stanley Tucci more. Like, I knew, okay, Stanley Tucci's the bad guy. He's bad. I get it. But I never felt that Stanley Tucci's gotta frickin' die, you know? Like, imagine John Wick, and I'm going a little bit overlong on this topic here, but bear with me for another moment. Imagine John Wick, and part of the reason that we're all for John Wick going around and murdering fools is because they killed his effing puppy. They killed his dog. And I remember being in that theater, looking around when they killed his dog, and you're seeing men, women, and children, well, by children, like 17-year-old kids, whatever, sitting down, and everybody in that movie theater all together is like, that effer's gotta die. That guy's gotta die. Because the directors let us see the puppy. When we experience the hero's horror, when we experience, at least on some level, the hero's pain, it gets us as an audience, I believe, more involved emotionally in the movie. Now, there are some movies that exploit the horror, like they glorify violence or they glorify murder or they glorify rape, and I'm not cool with that. But when it's a tool in the hands of a director to set us up to properly understand the mindset of the hero, I get it. Now with all that long-winded crap out of the way, on to the question about should you force yourself to watch it? Absolutely not. No, we all have different preferences. We all have different sensitivities. You know, I've got certain sets of sensitivities. You have certain sets of sensitivities. And if it's not something that you can handle, I have things I can't handle, then you should not force yourself. Because if you force yourself to do it, and you're just putting yourself in a very uncomfortable place that'll affect you deeper than it would, say, other audience members, then no, you shouldn't force yourself. I don't think you should. And I know there are some people who would say, no, that's what the director wanted you to see, so make yourself watch it. No, it's just a movie. It's just movies. And if there are certain things that affect you on a real personal level, then I say don't do it. Like I've got a friend who's had family die in a car accident. If there's a movie that really revolves around a tragic car accident that takes a person's family, I'm not going to force that buddy of mine to go and watch that movie, because that will be extra sensitive to him. Not that I'm taking away the director's right to make that movie. Of course, he should be allowed to make that movie for other people, but I'm not going to force my buddy to go sit down and watch that. That's going to affect him on a different level than affect anybody else. No, it's still just the movies. They're just movies. So don't worry about needing to force yourself to do anything. I think, look, if you ever feel like you want to dip your toe in that water, yeah, maybe try pushing your boundaries a little bit, but by no means should you force yourself. It's just a movie. So anyway, that's my feelings on it. Maybe you guys have different feelings. Jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Marvin Reyes, who writes, "Hey, John, love your show." Thank you so much, Marvin. As I watch it every day, my question is, what is your favorite trailer for a movie? Regardless if the movie was good or not, which trailer made you really want to see that movie? Oh, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, good trailers can make or break the box office for a movie. Good trailers can really do it. Let me start with a really recent one. And that's this one right here, Logan. That Johnny Cash Logan trailer. That trailer was art in and of itself. That Johnny Cash Logan trailer in and of itself was a beautiful piece of art that I lost count how many times I just sat down and kept clicking replay. I don't think I've ever seen a trailer that had the better use of a song in their trailer. and it's a beautiful thing when just the right song is used in just the right trailer. It's a beautiful thing. And I don't know if off the top of my head I can ever think of an example that did it better than that Johnny Cash Logan trailer. It was absolutely awesome. I love that. And a couple of my all-time favorite trailers are trailers to movies I didn't even really like. One is, I still think the greatest trailer, at least for me, I had the biggest emotional response ever, was the trailer for Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, man. And then you see the lightsabers and the tanks, and it's like, oh my God, it's Star Wars is back. And now, of course, long term, I ended up hating the movie, but that trailer was so freaking spectacular that it is difficult to put in words. Another trailer that is one of my all-time favorites for a movie that I also ended up not liking was Transformers 2. The trailer for Transformers 2 was so sick good. It was so awesome. And remember, I loved the first Transformers movie, right? So I like the fact that I already loved the first Transformers movie and I love Transformers, and now Transformers 2 is coming out and they put out this trailer, which is one of the best trailers I had ever seen in my life. Oh my, I was just in heaven. I was absolutely euphoric. It was incredible. And then I ended up hating the movie, which is really unfortunate. So there are 3 trailers right off the top of my bat. One's a recent example, Logan, which I ended up loving the movie. And then there's Phantom Menace and Transformers 2, which are magnificent trailers, but trailers that were ultimately to movies that I didn't like. So this is a great topic, though. I want to know what do you guys find as some of the greatest trailers of all time? Whether you ended up liking the movie or not, jump into the comment section below and leave your thoughts. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And this next question comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters, Will Roos. And Will Roos writes, "Hi, John. My question is, what is your opinion on quote-unquote method actors in Hollywood, such as Jared Leto or Daniel Day-Lewis? I personally think it is ridiculous how a person must constantly stay in character in order to guarantee their best performance. Do you think they do this to gain popularity during awards time and publicity? Or is it something else entirely?" Well, thanks a lot for the question, Will. And, let me use this as my commercial break for a second. Will mentioned he is one of my Patreon supporters. Guys, if you enjoy the John Campea Show or any of the other videos I put out every single month, you guys know I left my corporate overlords. I don't collect a corporate paycheck anymore. I decided to do this full time. And by doing it full time, my Patreon supporters are the ones who make sure I'm able to do the show. With Patreon, we get audio-only versions of the show. We get audio versions of Star Wars Talk Tuesday as well. We have exclusive Patreon supporter-only podcasts, Facebook groups, some live chats, things like that. Do me a favor. If you enjoy my videos, check out patreon.com/John Campea to get more information. And maybe you'll want to become one of my Patreon supporters. If you do, awesome. If not, that's totally fine. I'm just happy you're here and being a viewer. So with that out of the way, let's get now to the question here. Method acting. Do I think it's really necessary, or is it ridiculous, like you say, that they're just doing it for popularity? Well, let's put it this way. Let's take an MMA fighter. Let's take a mixed martial arts fighter for a second. Let's use one of my all-time favorite mixed martial arts fighter, George St. Pierre. Let's take him. Former welterweight champion of the UFC. Retired with the belt. Anyway, and now he's coming out of retirement. Anyway, so if you ever watch a documentary or any of the 30 for 30 stuff or the UFC Unplugged or any of that stuff, and you watch anything on George St. Pierre, you know that for like 3 months leading up to a fight, like he's always training, always, but in the 3 months leading up to a fight, every drop of liquid he puts into his mouth, every morsel of food, every minute of sleep, everything he tracks, and every second of every day for 24 hours a day, he is in preparation mode for whatever his upcoming fight is. There is not a moment of any day that he is not doing something that is preparing him for that fight. Whether it's resting, drinking, eating, training, weightlifting, running, sparring, whatever, every second of every day is a deliberate, purposeful moment that he is dedicating to preparing for that fight. In acting terms, what George St. Pierre and other mixed martial artists are doing is they are method acting. For the 3 months leading up to that fight, they are totally zoned in on what they need to do, what they need to be, how they need to act. Everything is for that fight. Method acting is really no different. And method acting is not some new thing. Method acting's been around for a long time. Marlon Brando was infamous, which is he's one of the most celebrated actors of all time. Marlon Brando was infamous for method acting. A lot of the most prestigious acting training academies embrace the method acting principle, and others as well. But here's the thing, dude. Look, you mentioned that Daniel Day-Lewis is a method actor. This guy here, Jared Leto, who, by the way, has an Academy Award on his shelf. Just keep that in mind. But Daniel Day-Lewis has become, to me, the greatest actor of all time. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is the undisputed greatest actor of all time. And even if you don't agree with that, you will agree he is one of the greatest actors of all time. There's no denying that. I mean, all you have to do is look down his resume. He is, without doubt, one of the greatest actors of all time. In my opinion, the greatest actor of all time. Anyway. So if I'm looking at a guy who I deem to be the best of all time at what he does, I'm not going to look at anything he does and say, oh, that's ridiculous that he does that. He's the greatest of all time. If he's doing it, it ain't ridiculous. It's just, to me, it's that simple. If the greatest actor of all time, Daniel Day-Lewis, embraces method acting and does and the results are 3 Best Actor Academy Awards on his mantle. No actor in history, no male actor in history has more on their mantle than Daniel Day-Lewis. Then you cannot say that. Like if George St. Pierre walks in and defends his title 9 times, then you can't say to him, oh, George refuses to eat McDonald's when he's training. That's ridiculous. You can have a little bit of McDonald's. It's ridiculous that George St. Pierre is doing that. The results speak for themselves. If George St. Pierre says, nope, I won't eat McDonald's while I'm training, and the result is he's champ and defends the belt like 8-9 times, then you cannot argue with his methods. And if the greatest actor of all time is a method actor, and the results are every time he's on screen, he gives one of the world's greatest performances ever, then who are we to say what he does is ridiculous? I mean, you and I know acting as from an audience point of view. We can sit down and watch the screen and we can tell if an actor is convincing us of his character, if he's making me buy into his character. We can know that. But when it comes to the actual act of acting, what do I know? What do you know? Daniel Day-Lewis says it's important to him, and he's the best that's ever done it. So to me, nope, not ridiculous. I would never be a method actor. Some great actors are not method actors. Some of the best actors are not method actors, and that's great for them. For guys like Daniel Day-Lewis, for guys like Jared Leto, and for many others, that is their best doorway into tapping into the best performance they can give. And if that works for them, then no way is it a ridiculous thing. No way. The greatest actor of all time says that works for him, then that's what I want him to do. That's just my opinion, though, of course. Thanks a lot for the question. Leave your guys' thoughts in the comments section below. All right, let's move on to the next question, the final question. Then I'm going to get to your guys' live tweets. And the next and final question of the day comes to us from Felix Gagnon, who writes, with the flop that is Inhumans, some people ask if Marvel should reboot it as a movie. I think they will more likely just ignore it and go on with the rest of their universe. But that does raise the question. Could or would Marvel reboot one franchise inside their MCU and go on with the rest? Like if, let's say, Antman has been terrible. Could they reboot it a few years later, ignoring the first hypothetical flop? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Felix. Yeah, 2 questions here, really. One is, I think the main one, what do you do with Inhumans? What do you do with this horrible mess of a show, Inhumans? I said this because remember, it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I reviewed the Inhumans first 2 episodes because I went to go watch it on IMAX. I said at the time, I will say it again, I still believe this after a few weeks have passed. Inhumans is the worst thing Marvel has ever produced. You have to go back to that Corman Fantastic Four back in the 80s to find something that's worse. Yes, I believe this is worse than Iron Fist. It is just the most terrible thing I have seen them do. except for the lead actor who I can't remember. I think he's from a show called Hell on Wheels. Except for the lead actor who you can see here. He was actually quite good in the show, really. Full marks to him. He was great in it. But everything else about this show was a complete failure. It launched and its ratings were okay, but the reception has been terrible. It's awful. Yes, I think Marvel should just cut bait and leave it. I wouldn't even let them finish out the first season. I mean, I know you all the first season is produced. Why not air it? Save yourself the embarrassment. The show is terrible. It's absolutely abysmal. Just stop airing it and just move on. Just say, okay, hey, you know what? Not everything we do can be gold. This didn't work. Okay, it didn't work. Let's cut our losses and let's move on to the next thing that we can make work. Inhumans does not work. From its cheap production value feel, to its horrible dialogue, to its absolutely unbelievable premise, even down to the costume design is awful. You know, when this picture you see right here first came out, and there were people criticizing the costume design, saying, "Oh my, this costume design's awful." I thought, well, you know, it might not be bad. Let's see it in the show. Then I watched it actually in context and watching the show. It's like, all I could feel was like, this doesn't feel like Inhumans. This feels like a bunch of people walking around in Inhumans cosplay. It feels like people in Inhumans cosplay to me. And then I read one critic actually said the moment that they checked out of the show, when on this moon-based planet to shave Medusa's heads, they brought out these, Target $5 head clippers. You can totally see it's like a Target brand. And it's like, yep, okay, I'm checked out. This is just too ridiculous. Yeah, I think they should move on. I think they should just slash the show and move on. Now, on to the other part of your thing is like, could Marvel reboot franchises within their MCU? I don't think you should. No. Because, I mean, look, Antman was a success, but let's say Antman was a failure. Well, then just move on from Antman. You can't reboot Antman. You can try it again later, maybe even with a different actor, but you still got to say it's the same guy because you're within a continuity. The MCU is one big continuity, and that might eventually bite them in the ass. Same as with DC. It could bite them in the ass eventually, but no, you can't reboot a thing. Like, you could have Tony Stark die and then have, you know, somebody else, maybe Rhodey steps out of the War Machine armor and takes up the mantle of Iron Man. And that's not rebooting it. That's still in the same continuity. That's totally fine. But I don't think within the MCU or within the DCEU or within any other cinematic universes, I don't think you can reboot individual properties without rebooting the whole thing. And that I don't think Marvel will do that either. So that's just my thought. Maybe I'm wrong. Could be, but that's just the thought off the top of my head. All right, guys, we've now come to that part of the show where I am going to go to your live Twitter questions. For those of you who are watching this show live, once again, just tweet to me. Use the @John Campea. Start your tweet with that, and then send on in your live questions. And I'm going to bring up the first questions right now. Okay, so here I'm going to open up the Twitter thing and see what we got. Let's do this one. And the first Twitter question comes to us from Reynard City, who writes, Rob from Norwich here, doing convention next week. What tips would you have promoting comic characters? What tips would I have in promoting comic characters? That's a really good question. Look, honestly, I would have no idea. I mean, I'm not a comic book marketing expert at all. My guess would just be start off by making the best possible comic book character you can and see if it catches on. But it sounds like you're doing conventions and things like that. That's a good way to start. Other than that, you might as well be asking me what's the best procedure for replacing a heart valve. I don't know. That's not my area of expertise. But, you know, with everything, just start by making the best possible comic book character you can. You increase your chances right there. Let's move on to the next Twitter question. And this next one comes to us from Haney CR Harry, who writes, John, since Fox has already done 2 XMen trilogies, do you think there are more in pre-production? I'm not counting spin-offs like Logan. Well, I mean, look, they're already got, they've got their X-Men, the Phoenix Saga is already underway. I'm sure they have plans to do more than just one of those. But they got to see how the first one does. I believe that Fox has a plan for worst case scenario and a plan for best case scenario. Their plan for worst case scenario is obvious. The X-Men Phoenix movie comes out and it's bad. It doesn't do well. They cut it. Fine. But I'm sure they have a best case scenario plan that, hey, if the movie comes out and audiences love it and it makes some money at the box office, here's our plan. And you will see more movies with these characters. Absolutely. Could that be the next trilogy? Probably. Don't know for sure. But again, we're just going to have to wait and see how this first movie performs. All right, let's bring this one up. And this one comes from DJ Teddy 450, who writes, John, Ghost Rider was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is in the MCU. So is Ghost Rider MCU, and will we see him in the movies? Ghost Rider is in the MCU, in as much as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is in the MCU. But just as we've never seen a character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ever appear in one of the movies, obviously Coulson did, but that was prior to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Since we have not yet ever seen a character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pop up in a Marvel movie world, we have seen an example. Obviously, we've had a couple of examples of one of the movie characters popping up, like Lady Sif. She popped up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's never gone the other way. I do not suspect that we will see Ghost Rider in an MCU movie. At this point, I don't suspect we will. Now, at some point, maybe it'll be a different Ghost Rider. Because remember, they fiddled with the Ghost Rider mythology a little bit for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. And we could very well have a different Ghost Rider pop up in a Marvel Cinematic Universe realm somewhere down the line. That's possible. But as far as like within the next year or two, will we see this Ghost Rider that was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pop up in the movies? Nothing's impossible. Nothing's impossible. My guess at this point would be no. Okay, let's move on to the next one. And the next one today comes to us from Real Blackheart, who writes, John, we know that Superman is coming back, but how about Clark Kent? How do they/you bring him back? He's dead. Do you bring him back at all? Well, yeah, you have to bring back. There's no Superman without Clark Kent. You got to have Clark Kent back. But as far as how do you bring him back, seriously, that's the easiest question. That's the easiest one. There are 1,000 different ways you can bring him back. You can pull the old, he was injured in the tragedy that happened with the buildings coming down, and he was taken to hospital, but he had amnesia. Nobody knew who he was. They couldn't find any ID. They shipped him out of state. Or maybe he got knocked on the head in the accident and wandered out of the danger zone, but you could say, what they could say is he had amnesia and just wandered off and then traveled the countryside and then finally remembered who he was a year later or 2 years later and came back there. As far as comic book movie potential problems you have, how do you explain where Clark Kent has been, is one of the easier ones. Look, if you can say nobody can recognize Clark Kent, hold on a second here. If you can say that, hey, you know what? How do you solve the problem that people don't know that Clark Kent is Superman? He looks the same. Where'd Clark Kent go? Or where'd Superman go? All I see now is Clark Kent. Like, if you're in a world where you can do that, then explaining where a guy who disappeared during a tragedy is not the hardest thing for a movie to do or for a movie universe to do. So so that won't be difficult for them. Yes, you absolutely bring back Clark Kent and it won't be hard. They'll come up with something and it'll be easy. All right, let's move on to the next one. And the next one comes to us from Jordan Solis, who writes, John, who has the better quality of cast between the MCU, the DCEU, and the X-Men universe? You know, there was a day, we are living in such a glorious age, because there was a day when all you could get were desperate actors to be in a comic book film. We live in a day and age now where even A-list celebrities, Academy Award-winning actors, are lining up to be in comic book movies. You know, you look at the X-Men universe, you got, they're removed now, but you had Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman. You got in the new cast, you got James McAvoy, you got Michael Magneto, as I call him now. Fassbender is Michael Magneto. You had Academy Award winner Jennifer Lawrence in there, even though I think she's been phoning it in for her X-Men performances, but I still love Jennifer Lawrence. She's great. So you got some great names over there. In the DCEU, some people say, I think Ben Affleck is a terrific actor. Henry Cavill is a magnificent actor. So you got some really good powerhouse stuff there. In the MCU, obviously, you got Chris Evans. You got I was going to say Chris Pine. You got Chris Pratt, who is one of the biggest movie stars in the world right now. You got Robert Downey Jr. You've got, Scarlett Johansson, one of the hottest actresses in the world right now. You've got Robert Redford popping up in the movies, the iconic, legendary Robert Redford. You've got, back over the DC, you've got an Academy Award winner in Jared Leto is in there. Margot Robbie is over there. Will Smith is over there. I mean, we are living, I think we take for granted. Like when I talk to guys like Robert Meyer Burnett, who's been around the block a little bit longer than us, and he just, like, he's never, I love this about Robert, like he never ceases to be amazed by the marvel of the age we live in now. Because he remembers being an adult and loving comic book content, and you couldn't get anybody, good directors, good actors. You can only get desperate actors or desperate directors to come on board and do comic book movies. Now you've got like the best of the best lining up to do them, and it's amazing. So who overall has the better quality of cast? I'll say third, even though I think what Fox is doing with their X universe with Deadpool and X-Men Days of Future Past and First Class and stuff like that, they're doing awesome work. I'll put them in third place. I'll put them in third place right now, even though they're doing awesome and they have tremendous talent in their movies. Wow. For now, I'll go MCU. But it's tight. I mean, DCEU has some tremendous names. We're going to hear more names getting added soon. It's tight. Like I said, right now I'll give the slight edge to MCU, but it's tight. It's really, really tight. Good question. All right, let's see here now. Let's bring up Comedy Reel says, John, it was not needed or necessary for Leto to send actors use condoms for the role of the Joker. Okay, look, I understand that, but let me put this to you. Who are you to say that? Who am I to say that? Jared Leto has an Oscar on his mantle. Jared Leto is an Academy Award winning actor. All right. And if he says that helped put him in the right mindset to bring the best Joker he can. Now, whether you like the Joker is irrelevant. If in Jared Leto's mind, an Academy Award winning actor, which you are not and which I am not, says to himself that me doing this helped put me in the mindset to do this character the best I can, then who are you to say it wasn't necessary? You're not, I love you, dude. You're my brother. You're a movie fan just like me, but you are not qualified to say whether it was necessary or needed. I am not qualified to say whether it was necessary or needed. All you and I can do is, as an audience, watch the performance and decide if we like the performance. That's all we can do. He's an Academy Award winning actor. If he says for him it was necessary for him to do that kind of stuff, yeah, it looks stupid on the outside. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. It looks totally ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is, the bottom line is, you are not qualified, nor am I, to say whether that was necessary or not. Only Jared Leto can say whether or not that was something he needed to do to put himself in the right frame of mind. Only he can answer that question. You can't. Neither can I. On the surface, does it look stupid and ridiculous? Absolutely. But I mean, we got to give him some breath there. Okay, let's see here. Let's go on. Here we go. Next one. Sorry, I lost my Twitter feed there for a second. A. Pugila writes, John, should Marvel have any involvement in Venom? Does Marvel owe it to the fans to make sure the character is done right? Marvel has no rights. Marvel has no say. As a matter of fact, look, a lot of people, there's a misconception out there that Marvel was 100% in charge of what happened in Spider-Man Homecoming. They were not. Nothing that could happen. Look, this is just the facts. Nothing happened in Spider-Man Homecoming that Sony did not approve. Did Sony let Marvel take the creative lead on the movie? Yes. But I know somebody very close to production, actually, and this has been reported elsewhere too, so you can look this up. Marvel wanted to make one kind of a movie, more of a John Hughes teen comedy movie. Sony wanted to make the more traditional comic book action hero movie. And what they did, now Sony has final say. The character still belongs to them. They allow Marvel to use him, but they could only use him in as much as Sony permits it. And what happened was Sony and Marvel came to a compromise, a beautiful compromise, of a John Hughes style comic book action film. It was a beautiful melding, and I think the results of their collaboration was wonderful. But ultimately, anything that happened in Spider-Man Homecoming, if Sony didn't want it to happen, Sony could have said, no, you can't do that. You write it and you come up with it, but we will put up roadblocks and say you can't do that. And Marvel, there's nothing they can do. Everybody wants to pretend Marvel has all the power because they're Marvel. No, Sony has the power. Sony has all the power when it comes to the Spider-Man character. They have an agreement with Marvel. Part of that agreement is that Marvel takes the creative lead on it, but Sony can at any time step in and say, no, we don't want Peter to say that. Or no, we don't want Spider-Man to do that, and you got to change it. When it comes to Venom, Marvel has no say. And even if Marvel wanted to have a say, they don't have a say. It's only up to Sony and how much Sony wants to allow Marvel to be involved, or if to be involved at all. There is this wild misconception out there that this deal between Sony and Marvel meant Sony handed Spider-Man over to Marvel. They didn't. He's on loan, and they can only be used in a way that Sony says he can be used. So every bit of the success of Spider-Man Homecoming is equally attributable to Sony as it is to Marvel. And a lot of people like to pretend like Sony's a studio that doesn't know what they're doing. I'm sorry, Spider-Man 2 is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. The first Amazing Spider-Man was great. The first Spider-Man movie was really good. Yes, they did Spider-Man 3. Yes, they did the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah, they did, but they've made more good movies than they've made bad movies. They know what they're doing with Spider-Man. And Marvel clearly knows what they're doing with Spider-Man, and that's why their collaboration works so well in Spider-Man Homecoming. But Marvel has no say. Whether they want it or not, Marvel has no say in the Venom movie. That's absolutely not a bit. Let's see. Let's bring up the next one. The next one comes to us from Kyle Cards fan, who writes, John, do you think we will see Luke light up a lightsaber in the next Last Jedi trailer? I hope so. I hope so bad. I want to see Luke light up that lightsaber. And something you might say to me, understandably, but John, wouldn't you want to wait and save that moment for the movie? No. I am ready for it now. I am ready for it right now. Give me the Luke lighting up a lightsaber. I will lose all control of my bodily fluids. I will lose my mind to see Luke Skywalker light up that lightsaber, and I want to see it now. I don't need it saved for the movie. Put it in the damn trailer. Please, Lucasfilm, put it in the damn trailer. Okay, let's move on. This will be the last question we take today, and then we're going to call it a day. Mike McHale writes, John Campea, all right, you've had a movie pass now for a few weeks. What is your official review on the service? Yeah, as you guys know, I got the movie pass card. The movie pass card is, of course, the membership. You pay $10 a month, and you get to go to one movie a day. And considering my local movie theater, the AMC Burbank 16, the average ticket is $15. If I go to see, one movie, I'm already saved money. I've gone to see 4 movies with my movie pass card since I got it, because it took them over a month to get it to me, but that's another issue for another time. Gotta tell you, I'm really liking it. I have to tell you, I really like it. I've now started, I've used it for a few weeks before I decided to start recommending it to friends of mine. But as of right now, I am recommending people get it. And I don't know if their business model can last. I don't know if they're going to be able to stay in business for more than another 6 months, or if they're going to be in business for another 6 years. I don't know. But my recommendation is to get the card. I have used it. It works well. I haven't had any problems with it since I finally got it. And it's been a very positive experience for me. So considering that my movie theater, the average ticket is $15, 4 movies, do the math. That's $60 of movie tickets that I've purchased for just a $10 a month fee. So it works out. It works really well. All right, guys, that will do it for this installment of on Sunday here for the John Campea Show. Again, guys, I can't tell you how much it means to me that so many of you guys, I'm looking at the numbers in the live chat board, how many of you guys choose to spend a part of your weekend hanging out with me and the rest of your fellow movie fans in the chat board to hang out, talk movies, engage, debate, discuss, disagree, agree, whatever, geek out, fan out. I love it, guys. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. Hey, guys, and if you haven't done so already, take a second, click on the subscribe button. Become a subscriber to the John Campea YouTube channel. It'd be awesome to have you guys here, keeping you up to date on all the videos I do. Follow me on social media. You can see right here, primarily on Twitter, simply at John Campea. That's where you can follow me, or on Facebook at John Campea. And that will do it for me, guys, for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thanks so much for joining me. And until next time, bye-bye.